this film is about creative writing and writing a ghost story in particular. Once you start to get the hang of a language, I think it's really good fun to start creating with it. And writing a good story, and a ghost story above all, is the perfect exercise for this. In Focus on English 8, we've got a whole chapter called Spooky. So we're going to go from there. So when writing a ghost story or a text, you need the inspiration, of course. You need the vocab and the phrases. You need to plan your text, maybe make a mind map. You need to write your first draft, give feedback, you rewrite your first draft, and then once you're done with all of this, you can present your work in class. We're going to have a look at these different parts of writing a story. So the first one then, inspiration. Well, the text in the book, of course, give you loads of inspiration. You've got the dialogue to dramatize, you've got the spooky poems, you've got the creepy story, and you've got the humoristic aspect in Garfield, and you've got the photographs, of course. Now, these are very suggestive, and you can spend quite some time discussing them, talking about what you see in them and what stories you think lie behind them as well. In the workbook, you've got the listening exercises. Why not listen to an interview with a real live Ghostbuster? What's his day like? What has he come across? Is there anything there that could inspire the students that they could base their own story on? Why not create your own ghost story together with a friend in the other listening exercise, Lost? You hear part of the story, then when there's a pause, you need to fill in the blanks. And then you listen to how it goes on until you have completed your very own ghost story. And this one turns out pretty creepy, actually. Why not find out how superstitious you really are? Now, this self-test is really useful as well. It gives you loads of other ideas that you can base your story on. And of course, there's loads of useful vocab and phrases in it. Which brings us to the next bit, which is vocabulary and phrases, isn't it? Well, in the workbook, you've got exercises for this as well. You've got the point blank learn the vocab. You've got focus, language and focus, which is when you look at the differences between expressions that sound the same. So what's the difference between whose, and whose, for example? Working with words and definitions. How on earth do you say the very same thing in different ways? Now, this all gives the student tools to vary his or her language when it comes to writing. And in the toolbox section, we've got the spooky words as well, and the spooky phrases, which are excellent in ghost stories. Helps the student vary the way he or she starts the sentences, how to describe emotions or environments, of course. Then it's time to plan the story and make a mind map. And in the teacher's guide, there's a ready-to-go work plan for writing the ghost story. And there's also a mind map with suggestions on what to include in a mind map, just to help the students get started more quickly. Now, once you've got that far, it's time to start writing. And it's very difficult for a lot of us to write the introductory paragraph to story. And in the toolbox section, we have included 4 different examples on how you can start your story. Is it a flashback? Is it a conversation? Does it start in the middle of something, for example? There are also suggestions on what to think about once you've chosen which of these introductions you want to use. Now, some students have a really hard time figuring out something to base their story on, and they can just nick one of these introductions because all the examples have been written to suit the ghost story. Now, we've written the draft and it's time to give feedback. And this is also, it can be a very difficult exercise in class because a lot of the times students find it difficult to know what to assess, what to look at, what to give feedback on. So this template helps them. It's about the plot, the language use and the structure. Is it a coherent text? Is there anything missing that might make it difficult for the reader to follow the train of thought? What about the subject-verb agreement, the use of tenses? It also gives suggestions on how to give feedback, because when we give feedback, it's really important that we remain respectful to each other and each other's texts. So, after giving feedback, we rewrite our first drafts, and it's time to present in class. Now, what I did is I often turned down the lights low, and in the background I had some scary music on at a low volume. I lit some candles, and then we sat down and had a ghost story reading in class. Now, the students really enjoyed this. And I had also prepared templates for assessment, where I looked at the plot and the language use and the structure, same things they had been giving each other feedback on before while working with the text. And after they'd presented, I would sit down and would go through the assessment and my feedback and see how they could continue their work to improve their language proficiency even more. So loads of useful tools, and I really hope you find them useful. Good luck.